My name is Brian Main, and I'd like to say a few words by way of introduction, about a paper I recently published with Ian Gregory-Smith in the British Journal of Management. This deals with the symbolic management of women on company boards and uses evidence from the recent UK Davies review. So in 2011, the Davies review recommended that British boards, UK company boards, try to reach a target of 25% women by 2015. And this was an undoubtedly marked success. These targets were achieved, and British boards have been transformed in terms of their gender composition. There are now more women on company boards, and they enjoy an average length of service that is now closer to that of men. However, something we had noted before, the relatively high exit rate of women after 9 years of service remains. And this is a puzzle, because after 9 years of service, women lose all directors lose their independence, but it's down to the company under the UK Corporate Governance Code to keep them on if they wish. All they have to do in exercising that discretion is to comply or explain. So they really just have to put something by way of explanation in usually the annual report. And they do this. But they do it more for men than they do it for women. And it's this we're going to investigate. And the 2011 Davies Review offers a natural experiment that helps clarify some causality issues. So this is from our previous paper, and what I'm talking about can be seen in this hazard rate. This chart indicates the chance of leaving the board at any point in time. And as you can see, as you approach year 9, then your chance of leaving the board goes up really quite markedly. But it goes up much more for women, as you can see, than it does for men. These data are 1996 to 2010. And when we saw these results, we thought, well, maybe this is because the symbolism of independence is much more important for women directors than it is for men. But we couldn't really draw any firm causal connection between gender and this effect, because it could be being driven by unmeasured characteristics, some things that were characteristic of women and not of men, or vice versa, that helped explain why they were kept on. So we're going to use the Davies Review to shed some light on this question of causality, and I just thought I'd indicate that in our data, which now extend to 2017 and encompass the post-Davies period, then you can see the marked difference. But pre-Davies, 6.1% of women appointments to boards were female. Post-Davies, 26.0% were women. And most of them were non-execs, and most of those were independent non-execs. So independence is quite important here. And one can also see that just the overnight impact of Davies in these probability projections. So these charts show you the probability of a board appointing a male director, the blue, in the next year, versus appointing a female director, the red. And you can see these are widely different, and after Davies they converge, still in favour of men, but they converge, and that pattern has been maintained in the post-Davies period. So the impact of Davies is quite marked, quite definite. So we're going to ask what changed after the Davies Review. And what we do when we look at the data, the newer data that extend through 2017, is that effect of men leaving the board at a lower rate at year 9, after year 9, than women, is still there. So the Davies Review did not change this. And what we need to do is ask, is this due to gender? Is there a causal link between being a woman and leaving the board more likely to be leaving the board at year 9 than would be the case for your male counterpart, or is it due to some other characteristics? So we can treat Davies as a natural experiment because Davies, in addition to saying, look, you've got to have more women on boards, they also place great importance on the avoidance of all male boards, to the extent that they named and shamed companies in the post-2011 period who persisted with all male boards. So lists were drawn up and publicised. Boards were visited and persuaded to move away from having all male boards. So this placed what we're going to term singleton woman, a woman who finds herself the only female director on the board, places them in a very strong position. And what we're going to do is compare women singletons with women non-singleton directors. So we're going to compare the fortunes in terms of survival on the board of women with women. And in doing that, we're going to cancel out any of these unmeasured characteristics. And so we can infer some causality relating to gender from our results. And here's the first result. It's a difference in differences analysis of comparing the pre-Davies period with the post-Davies period and looking at singleton women, the red, with non-singleton women. So this is comparing women with women. And you can see that the experience pre-Davies was roughly consistent as what was called the parallel trends assumption holds. Women who were singletons had a slight advantage over non-singletons, the red over the blue. Post-Davies, this advantage is increased markedly. Just as I had indicated might happen, so we see it did in fact happen. That women who are singletons have a much longer experience on the board post-Davies. However, when we look at greater detail about where this impact is happening, and we do again a difference in differences analysis, but this time using a hazard function, so we can control for lots of variables. Then you can see that column 1 shows that the singleton post interaction term suggests that being a singleton woman post-Davies lowers your chance of exiting the board. That's something we just saw in the previous diagram, and that's borne out here. But then when we decompose it by year, we see that the year 9 effect, the red in the second column, is still there. So singleton women leave. There's an uptick in their exit rates at year 9. But the important result from our point of view is that the interaction with this year 9 effect post-Davies is plus 0.361. It's insignificant. It's the wrong sign. So there is no advantage to women at year 9 in being singleton. So although they benefited overall in terms of their general length of service, they are no better off at that year 9 point than they were before Davies. And so we can see that this gender effect is marked, that it's there pre and post Davies. So the takeaways here is, well, obviously the Davies review can be judged a major success, no denying that. The numerical presence of women on UK boards has just increased really markedly. But we have this thing of all directors lose their independent status after 9 years. The comply and explain provisions of the UK corporate governance codes allows them to be kept on after this time, but there's a relatively unfavorable treatment of women at this point compared with men. And this suggests that the independent status, the symbolism of the independent status, is seen as relatively more important than for men, more important for women than for men. The treatment of this woman at this stage reflects the importance of the symbolism of their independence. Their appointments on the board are moral due to the symbolism of their independence and other factors. And the evidence suggests that men and women directors, therefore, are not regarded as equal, and that it's more than just the numbers. It's about more than just the numbers. There seems to be some distance to go to bring gender equality to the boardroom. So I hope that brief introduction will encourage you to go and take a look at the paper. It's the first slide tells you where to find it. It's on open access, and I hope you find it interesting. Thanks for listening.